What's up, guys, and welcome back to the G-Ret Show. I'm G-Ret. Huge match, huge result for Barcelona against PSG. First leg in the quarterfinal, and this did not disappoint whatsoever. I want to talk about the match, a couple great things from both sides, and a couple players in particular for Barcelona that were a little disappointing, plus more coming up next. Before we get into the full match analysis, Raphinha is doing everything he can to make sure that he does everything in his power to make it so hard for Barcelona to sell him, because that was arguably his best game he's ever played for Barcelona. And it wasn't just the goals, they were both quality goals. It was outside of that. It was the plays that it was the runs he was making. He was beating players one-on-one, beating players with his pace. He was taking chances, and he played his best match I've ever seen from him. And if he can play like that 80% of the time, I don't see a reason that Barcelona should sell him. Now, it's still, if you get enough money, would you sell him? But that's not the point. The point is, he was unbelievable, and I can't wait to see how he does next week in the second leg. I was kind of not shocked, but it was interesting to see PSG have majority of the possession. When we look at the match, 59% in favor of PSG to Barca's 41%. Now, I will say, I knew PSG, they do like playing possession football. They were home, so I thought maybe there was a little advantage, but I thought Barca would control the majority of the match, which at times they did. The first part of the first half was all PSG, and most of the second half was PSG. Barcelona is on their heels, and I will say, I don't want to say Dembele's goal was lucky or it was bad defending. I think it was kind of unfortunate. Araujo kind of clears it and it goes right to him. I don't know how that shot went through. It was just unfortunate, but out of all players, of course Dembele scores. He can't score all season, has one goal, and he scores against Barcelona. You know, it was kind of just unfortunate, and then of course they concede again. They just looked like they were sleeping. I can't really say much about it. Probably my biggest complaint, and not even just this match, is the entire season. They concede either in the first or second half so early, then you have to climb, and you have to climb and climb and climb to overcome what you just did. You can't do this. What they just did today, you're not going to be able to do to Bayern Munich, Man City, or Real Madrid. It's not going to be possible, so they need to make sure that this never happens. They cannot afford to go down to those teams, especially like that early in the half. Now, when we look at the good for Barcelona, obviously Raphinha was fantastic. I think Lewandowski, we need to give him a little more credit. He dropped really deep as a false nine and made a lot of great turns, had a bunch of great touches. He had one bad touch at the end of the game, the entire match. He created chances. He was good on the ball. He was composed. I think if he can play like that more, it's going to be so much more beneficial for Barcelona. And I've always said this, a team that has a center forward that can drop back deep and plays a false nine, it's so dangerous. And we saw, because it allows the two wingers to get behind and you can make runs down the field. And we saw that with Barcelona. We saw it with Raphinha, and it was working so well. I think Araujo deserves a huge shout out. Now, yes, it wasn't a clean sheet, but what he did, some of the tackles he made, especially in the second half, who was that against Bradley Barcola on the breakaway? He slides in, perfect tackle, and then he made a great play after that. He was one of the best players on the pitch, and if he plays like that every single match, it's going to be a huge problem. And what did we notice in this match? We didn't notice Kylian Mbappe. You barely noticed him, and it's not like he had a bad game. He was the reason they scored their first goal. He still was dangerous on the ball, but Barcelona did great. Koundé did great, and there was a lot of help with Koundé. Every time Mbappe had the ball, there was Koundé and one other person right next to him to ensure Mbappe couldn't get through. And Barcelona, for the most part, did a great job making sure they couldn't get Mbappe into the match. Frankie, again, besides the hospital ball, him and Cancelo were playing to each other in the second half in the corner in their own end. He was great. And then, of course, you can't forget Pedri comes on after being injured for a month. Within 30 seconds, plays an unbelievable ball to Raphinha. I mean, it was one of the greatest passes. It's probably the best pass he's made all season. One of the greatest goals we've seen all season, just from a pure football standpoint. I mean, quickly gets the ball, chips right over, one touch by Raphinha, far post. It was an unbelievable goal. I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous when Barcelona went down 2-1. I truly didn't think, I thought it was going to be 3-1 at some point. They did a great job at getting back into the match and being able to sustain that PSG counterattack and that pressure that they were putting on Barcelona for the entire match. They did a great job, and I got to give a shout out to Raphinha from PSG, because someone that is, I think he kind of sprung on the scene a little bit last year. I believe he was with PSG the year before. He was great in the midfield. I thought Barcelona was going to control the possession this match because the inexperience that PSG has in their midfield with Zaire Emery and Raphinha and Fabian Ruiz, pretty good players, but a lot of young players, a lot of inexperienced players, especially at this stage of the Champions League, if any at the Champions League. So I was impressed by that and by PSG. Dembele, he was good. It bothers me that Barca allowed him to score. But Barcelona they could have had 2 or 3 more goals. 100%. And I do want to talk about a couple of things that bothered me in the match. And the first person and the main problem I have with this match is Joao Cancelo. He was great at times, but he tries to do too much. At the end of the day, you are a defender, and I believe I forget if it was the first or second half. He had a chance to play a wide open pass to, I believe it was Lamine Yamal or Lewandowski, and instead there was a guy right in front of him and he shoots it 30 feet wide of the goal. Happened a couple times in the match. He tries to be too fancy and do those outside of the foot crosses or shots that don't end up going anywhere near where we want them to go. It's a little bit of a liability, and I think one of PSG's chances, they had a good chance because of that after he missed one of those shots, and he needs to relax and not try to be too fancy. Sometimes being simple is better. Ter Stegen also makes me extremely nervous at times. Sometimes he tries to be too fancy and he's too calm almost, and sometimes I don't like that. He tries to squeeze passes in and force stuff too much. I do have a little bit of an issue with that, and then I do think he should have saved the second goal, or at least got something on it, because it was kind of a weak shot. It was a great build-up play goal by PSG. Barcelona was caught sleeping, and I do think that goal should have been saved, but those are my 2 main issues that I had with Barcelona. There was a couple small errors that luckily didn't amount to anything serious by Cabarsi, but at the end of the day, 17-year-old, he did fine. Koundé was good, and when Joao Felix came on, he was great too. Lamine Yamal, obviously, the goal to Raphinha was because of that pass he had. Was a little quiet, definitely beat a couple guys on the wing, but he was good. Now, again, I can't really say much bad about him because he's 16, and, I don't know if any 16-year-old has ever played this far in the Champions League, so I can't say too many bad things about him. But it was a great match, and this is huge for Barcelona coming home for next week on Tuesday, ahead 3-2, up 1 on aggregate. So this is huge. Hopefully Barcelona can make it through. And I will say, the world is sleeping on Barcelona. They are. And I think it's time to give Barcelona their respect. And this is just completely unbiased, but they beat Napoli relatively comfortably. They haven't lost in 9 matches. They beat a very good PSG team with the best player in the world. They basically completely silenced Kylian Mbappe. They beat Atletico Madrid extremely comfortably a few weeks back without some of their superstar players. They're playing great football at the right time. And you're telling me right now, if Barcelona wins this match, I feel confident that whoever wins out of PSG and Barcelona will progress and advance to the final. They can compete with any of those teams. City, I think, is still the best team. They're vulnerable, especially on the defense, and Erling Haaland is easy to silence. The entire world knows that now. Barcelona, obviously, Real Madrid is a good team. They're a dangerous team. Vinny is their most dangerous player. It's Madrid. Barca can beat them. They showed it a lot last year. They can hang with Arsenal. Bayern Munich owns Barcelona for the most part, but because of their iffy season, I still think Barcelona, they have it in them where they could beat anyone. Barca deserves more respect. I can't wait to see not only Barcelona versus PSG plays out, but the rest of the legs too. They were all great matches. Let me know what you guys think down below. Who advances to the semifinal out of all the different group stages? What do you think about Barcelona and their chances to make it far in the Champions League? Do they have a shot where they can actually win? Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you made it this far, I appreciate you guys watching this video and supporting the channel. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you guys back here next time on the G Red Show.